The Corinthian correspondence is one of the richest and most interesting parts of the entire Bible. But to really appreciate all that's going on between Paul and the Christian community in Corinth, there's a fair bit of background information you need to be aware of. As you get started on 1 Corinthians this week, let me offer you a few tidbits to get the wheels of reflection turning in your head. The city of Corinth lies at a major crossroads in the ancient Mediterranean world. The ancient geographer Strabo writes, "Corinth is called wealthy because of its commerce, since it is situated on the isthmus and is master of two harbors, of which the one leads straight to Asia and the other to Italy. And it makes easy the exchange of merchandise from both countries that are so far distant from each other." Here we see the Greek isthmus of Corinth. Now, although in ancient times there were many attempts made to dig canals from the Saronic Gulf in the southeast to the Gulf of Corinth in the northwest, all of these attempts failed. And so merchants who wanted to travel and carry their cargo from Asia in the Far East to Italy in the northwest, or from Italy to Asia, had no choice but to pass into one port overland with their cargo to the second port and then continue on their journey by a new ship, typically. The result of this for Corinth was that vast amounts of wealth entered the city, as the city became a major international hub of trade. Now, as often happens, all this wealth brought a kind of heightened ambition for the social status that wealth can bring. This was happening in many parts of the Roman world, as the Pax Romana brought new opportunities for the ambitious to climb the socioeconomic ladder in their community. But this kind of struggle for greater wealth and status in the eyes of others in the community often has very destructive effects on the community. And we see just these dynamics at play throughout Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, as over and over, Paul confronts problems in the community that stem, in large measure, from individual beliefs that they are better or more important than their brothers and sisters in Christ, or from the desire to be viewed that way. Now let's look at one of the biggest issues that Paul addresses in his letter to the Corinthians. In 1 Corinthians 8-10, Paul addresses the matter of whether to eat meat that has been offered to idols. This is very foreign, I think, to most of our experience, so let me explain briefly what this was about. Ancient Greeks and Romans included animal sacrifice in the worship of their gods. This was often a group or community affair. So first, the animal would be led through the streets to the temple, where the priest would offer a prayer. Sometimes wine and grain were offered to the god and then poured over the animal's head. A slave would then kill the animal, and the priest would examine the liver or other internal organs for omens from the gods. Part of the animal might be burned before the god, and then the remainder would be sold at the market or eaten at a banquet in honor of the god. To the Gentile believers at Corinth, all of this would have been very commonplace, and they would have participated themselves in such affairs before they came to faith in Christ. Now the problem was this. Now that they worshiped the Lord, they knew perfectly well that they could no longer worship the gods and goddesses of the Greco-Roman pantheons. But what should they do when they were invited to participate in a banquet that follows a sacrifice? They weren't participating in the sacrifice themselves, only attending the banquet with friends and neighbors. Or what about eating meat from the marketplace that had been offered to a god? These were pressing issues for the fledgling Corinthian community, and it's out of this that Paul distills a critical principle for Christian fellowship that aims to strengthen and build the bonds of the believing community. As you read these chapters, see if you can follow the flow of his thought and identify what this principle is.